Renatus rocks. GM, everybody. Welcome to the call, Money Monday. And it's working. Sweet. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. GM, welcome to the call. Great to see all of your profile pictures. Yeah, happy you're all here. Let's get to work. I know we had a very productive week last week at Corporate Studios. A lot of action happened. Created a lot of great content, a lot of great value. And I know a lot of guests were able to attend. So let's talk about how the follow-up process for finding them their funds. As you saw my message go out today, finding them the funds makes them say yes. They already want to say yes because of the content, the opportunity, what we got going on here. And remember that there's two parts to our customer's decision. There's the logical part, there's the emotional part. And ultimately what happens is people will buy on emotion and then justify with logic. So we all do that. You do that. Welcome to being a human and buying stuff in a free capital world. We're going to buy on emotion, but we need to justify it with logic. So when people can see that the payment can make itself, or that the risk to reward ratio will pay off, and it's not a gamble, when people can see that, then they're going to buy. So we'll switch over to the whiteboard here in just a minute. And wanted to give you guys a quick update on the top 10. So congrats to Danny. You did it again, 2 weeks in a row. Well done. Then in the number 2 spot, we got Mike and Bree. Well done, out of the Orem, Utah team. They are hustlers. All right, then we got Jeremy from the Texas team. Mary and Seta coming in the number 4 position. Jose Rodriguez from the Idaho team, number 5. Well done. David and Denisha from Vernal in the number 6 spot. Well done. Brian Woodward, number 7. Then we got Adwele Mansasu from the Virginia team, coming in at number 8. Benjamin's number 9, Creelman. Hey, Benjamin, we need a profile pic. Mr. Ghost over here. Coming in at number 9, so well done. And then number 10, Tabitha and Nate Wallenfang from the Wisconsin team. So great job, guys. Guys and gals, keep up the great work. Keep spreading the good word, making a difference for people, and having that positive ripple effect continue out. All right, then we also have our quote of the day: a man's mind, stretched by new ideas, may never return to its original dimensions. That is exactly what happens to our students when they come to a Thursday night meeting, or when they come to the corporate studio and they join us for a class. They are never the same again. When you realize what velocity banking does, or when you realize the tax game that's against you and those new ideas go in, it may never return to its original dimensions. Beautiful. So we're doing people a lifetime service with education. And big congrats to Bill and Numer for successful class recordings, making a big difference for our community. Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, so we're going to get our whiteboard loaded up here. So yeah, great to see you all. Pete and Scott, Ben and Bill and Heidi, Gosha, Denisha, Lupe, Gilda, Tim. What's up, everybody? Two Tims, Linda, Crin, Erica, and Jasmine. These beautiful people joining us. Yep. It was an awesome week. Oh, let me take the filter off here. Clear filters. There we go. I swear there's more events. Here we are. First Look Challenger intro in Idaho is happening this Wednesday with Mike Saunders. That's awesome. We got the Team Elevate North Mastermind in Clearfield. We got a property tour. And Sharon is doing his weekly talk on Wednesday. Yep. Got a busy week. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you guys about following up and getting the customer to understand that they can afford this. So let's just get a few more people in here. That'd be good. Stick it to the man, get out of the matrix. Stick it to the man, get out of the matrix. All right, here we go. Get this thing loaded up. Yep, it's working. Switch, share. Oh, my iPad just crashed. I guess I'm getting a new iPad.
Recording in progress.
Awesome. Okay, this will work. Yep. So stop that. We'll start this. To the whiteboard. GM. It's working. It's working. Real quick before I jump into this, I would like to get somebody's perspective on how the live attendance went. I got to watch the stream, which was great. But how was it being there in person? Do you want to come off mute and share their weekend experience at corporate? How many of you were actually there in person? Oh, cool. And that Idaho workshop is going to be featuring Mitch Nelson. Top of the line. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Who was there in person that would like to share what it was like? Otherwise, we can just jump right into it. GM. Is this thing on? Yes, it's on. Okay. Find the funds. Because quite often when we are talking to somebody, it's a couple yes or no questions, right? So after the Thursday night meeting, they're sitting down in their seat. They're going, wow, you guys just blew my mind. We go over, packages and pricing and everything that comes with it. So then it's a few questions after that. Did you like it? Yes or no? Right? Did you so yes or no? Do you see working with us can help you make more money? Yes or no? Okay. Did you want to do the education or the ICM or both like me? Okay, a couple questions. And then however they answer that last question, oh, I'm going to do the essentials or I'm going to do the ICM also. I'm going to do the combo. Great. I'll do both. Great. However they answer that, the next question is, well, congrats, welcome to the team. How are you going to fund it? Right? You like what you saw. You see that working with us, you're going to make more money. You want to do the education, or both. Okay, how are you going to fund it? And then this is where they go, I don't know. I wish I knew. Some people say, oh, I got a HELOC. I got a credit card. No problem. But more than half of the people are going to need help finding the funds. And so you could double your income by having this conversation with your guests. In fact, I bet more than 80% came from this conversation because for me anyway, I wasn't necessarily marketing to the richest people. I wasn't marketing to people that could go get they already had their HELOC. It was ready to go. So yeah, we had to get more creative and go through this list and help people find the money. So let's do it. And GM to everybody that just joined us. Let's talk about finding the money. So remember how I told you that people will buy on emotion and justify with logic. So one of the things about making sure that their emotions are in the proper place is to ask them, and it is most effective, the little things along the way. What I found is when they can see my writing. So when I'm sitting down at the table with them, first of all, if we're going to go get coffee or lunch or something, and there's a table, I sit next to them. I know that's weird. Usually you sit across from them, but that little shift in our body language, and I'm going to sit next to you and we're going to work on this together, changes the vibe of everything. Because yes, I'm trying to get money out of your pocket to corporate, and corporate's going to put some of it in my pocket. That is clear. We're doing that. So if I'm sitting next to you while we're doing this, then the vibe is we're doing this together for your benefit, for your service, so you can. And then they can also see my sheet. Now I'm left-handed, so I make sure they sit on the right of me. And obviously, if you're right-handed, have them sit on the left so that when you're writing, they can see your sheet. Okay, in the top, in this little box that I'm making, is our little dream box, our little goal box. So as a little bit of potential emotion or resistance starts to show up, because now they know we're going to talk about money, and a lot of people were raised around talking about money's taboo. You got to get over that. And just, to me, talking about money is like talking about sandwich toppings. It doesn't matter unless we're literally making the sandwich right now. Please don't make it such a big deal. Is talking about mustard all day and ketchup such a big deal? No, it's not. So neither should talking about money. So anyway, they got some emotion. We want to anchor it to something positive. So my question is, and I got to get them, why are we actually doing this? It's not so that we could spend money. Why are we actually doing this? We're doing this so that you can do the thing. What is the thing for you? In 5 years, so this is our question. In 5 years, where do you see yourself? How many houses do you want to have? And how many dollars per month do you want to have? So let's fill in those blanks. In 5 years. And if I can see that they're struggling thinking about 5 years, then I'll ask them, well, how old are you? Or how old will you be in 5 years? So I'll be 27 or I'll be 47. Okay. So when you're 47, how much money do you want to have coming in on a monthly basis? And or how many deals or how much property, how many doors do you want to have? Some people right away, they know I need 10,000 a month. Okay. I need 20,000 a month. Cool. 20,000 a month. Now, some people, that's just replacing their income. Other people, that's a 10x. If they're making $2,000 a month now, they want 20 grand a month. Okay, we'll get there. But be clear, it might take you all 5 years to do that. But if you're just trying to double your money, you might be able to do that in a year. So, or some people are like, I want to do 50 flips in the next 5 years. Great. Whatever your doors are, tell me. Okay. I want 10 doors and 10K a month. Perfect. And then one other thing we'll add on to that is what, other than work, what would you be doing for fun at that point? If this money's coming in, this is our money talk, and this is our life. Because, money isn't everything. So, okay, money's coming in. Great. Now what? What are you going to do with your life? How are you spending it? Obviously, you don't have a job if you're making 20 grand a month from your deals. You're not fighting traffic, clocking in and out, doing some 7 to 9 job. What's life like? And most people, it's travel, it's kid, it's hobby, explore, fun. Okay, cool. So now we know what we're going after, the money. We know why we're doing it, the kids. Now let's get to work. Now we have enough logical charge to go through this list and actually find the funds. Does everyone understand the setup or any questions about the setup of the conversation? Okay, moving on. Now we're switching to the list. I'll turn to them and I'll say, okay, in order for me to help you the most with this exercise, you're going to have to just tell me. I don't care what the numbers are. Okay. In fact, I've seen all the numbers. It doesn't matter what they are. Okay. The point is, where are we going? We know where we're going now. Isn't that great? We have our destination. And then remember the metaphor, folks. We know where our destination is. The only way for us to get a clear route to our destination is to know where we are right now. So that's this sheet. Let's find out where we are. We already know where we want to go. As soon as we know where we are, we can make a roadmap. Sound fair enough? Yes. Okay, great. Number 1. At the end of the month, after you've paid all of your bills, you've covered all the expenses, what is left over in your checking account? And I'll just write it down. No emotion. We're just fact finding. Let's say they say $200 a month. Okay. Number 2. What is in your savings account? Most people will say 0 to 1,000. Now, most people in my experience, remember, I was marketing to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I didn't matter who. I didn't have a customer profile. I was just going willy-nilly talking to everybody. So I was getting, obviously, there's more broke people than there are well-off people. So those were the numbers I was getting. But when I watch Mitch do follow-ups or I watch Bill Predabon do follow-ups, because of who they are, they end up spending time with better off people. Maybe they got 20, 50 grand in their savings. Anyway, doesn't matter. Because what we'll say here after number 2, I'll draw a line and I'll say, great news. We're going to be able to find you the money for this education without touching these 2 accounts. So since we're not going to be touching these 2, why would I ask you about them? Why do you think I asked you about these 2, knowing that we weren't going to use them? Sometimes they just say, I don't know. Well, okay, well, the answer is it tells me, these two numbers tell me up until now what your habits have been. If you've been working for 20 years and you saved $1,000, that tells me about your habits. If you have zero in your checking, you've spent all of your money at the end of the month. That tells me about your habits. So that tells us a little bit about what needs to change or upgrade in order to close the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay, number 3. By the way, when you do that part on 1 and 2, you show them however you've structured your life to pay your bills and have something left over. That's not, we don't have to mess with that. Take a breath. Okay, good. Now let's go back to the numbers. Number 3. Do you own a house and what is your HELOC? You go, oh, what's a HELOC? I don't know. I don't have a HELOC. Okay, well, how much is your house worth? What's the value of the house? And what do you owe? Okay, so the value of the house would be, let's say, 400K. And you bought it a few years ago, you owe 300K. So there's a possibility here of being able to get a 90% LTV HELOC. What's 90% of 400,000? 90% of 400,000. 9 times 4 is, you got it, 36. So we'll add our zeros. 360,000 would be 90% minus the 300 that you have on your mortgage. You could potentially get a $60,000 HELOC. That's neat. Anyway, let's keep going down our list. Number 4. Number 4 is a HELOC. Sorry, I just looked at the word HELOC. Number 4 is 401k. 401k. Okay, so there's 2 ways to go about HELOCs. The first way, I can give you a bunch of details. The second one, or I said it again, 401ks. The second one, I'll just have to have you call a 401k custodian to get your specific answers. But let's go over this real quick because plenty of people fund their education with a 401k. Now, here's how it works. With a 401k, well, first of all, how much is in your 401k? What are some answers you guys get about the 401k? How much is in your 401k? Someone says I have $5,000 in my 401k. Someone says I have 50,000 in my 401k. And let's say someone says I got 150,000 in my 401k. Some people say I don't have a 401k. All right, so put a big fat 0 and move on to the next. So on the 401k, I'm just going to write off on the these are our notes for our call, not what you put on the sheet. But you're essentially asking them, how much is in the 401k? How much? I was just reminded that throughout this whole conversation, we are not telling them what to do. We're showing them what others have done. Do you see the difference? There's a huge line in the language and how a judge or a court would see your actions and your behavior. So we're never telling someone what to do. We're showing them what others have done. And then they can make a decision based off of what they've seen others do, what they should do for themselves, because we're never going to tell them what to do. I need everyone to be clear on that. If you're not clear on what I just said, put something in the chat or come off of mute and we'll get some clarity around it. But we never tell people what to do. We only tell people what others have done to achieve what they're trying to achieve. So how much is in the 401k? And the next question is this a current 401k or is this an old 401k? Because that'll tell us which route to go down. If it's old, we're going to send them to a custodian. If it's current, then they're going to be in control and it'll be super easy. Okay, how much is in there? Is it current or is it old? And then the other question that people forget is, do you have an old one? Because 401ks never expire. But you might have had a job for 10 years a couple years ago at this other place and you forgot about a 401k and it's still sitting over there. So I've had plenty of people go, "Oh, you're right." And they'll go back and look. They'll call me a week later, "Michael, there's 50 grand in that account." Yes. Think about what a surprise, what a grateful experience that would be. So anyway, remember to ask them, do you have an old one? Even if it's a couple grand here and there, it adds up. People forget about their money. And guys, I could talk to you about how evil 401ks are. They're great to use if you know what they are, but how they came about and what rug pull happened to America with the 401k back in the early 80s is a sleight of hand. I think we can talk about it later, but essentially they said one thing and then they did another, and that's how the 401k came about. Anyway, here's the rules on 401ks. It's easy to remember the rules on the 401ks because it all starts with 5. Okay. The rules with 401ks are you can borrow. And to be clear, this is a borrow. This is not a cash out. This is not a distribution. This is a non-taxable event. A borrow is a non-tax, no penalty event. You can borrow 50%. Actually, we're going to do it this way. You're going to borrow 50,000 or 50%, whichever's greater, for 5 years at 5% interest back to yourself. And then, because I like to have fun, I draw some pants. And I say, essentially what you're doing is you're taking money from your left pocket and you're putting it in your right pocket. You're going to use it to make money and you're going to put it back into your other pocket. Folks, this is your money. Get excited about it. Remind them that it's a tool they can use to improve their life. That's what this is all about, is improving your life. Not just trying to buy a program. No, the program is a tool. Your 401k is a tool. Let's keep these things in perspective here. So 50%, 50,000, 5 years, 5%. So let's say they answered the question when you say how much, and it's current. They say they got 30,000 in there. Like, wow, good for you. So that means you could borrow $15,000 as a loan from yourself to yourself. Now you do have to pay it back. You're going to be on a 5-year payment schedule at 5%. So keep it simple. You could get out your fancy amortized calculator, but we'll be in close enough with just a regular calculator. 15,000 times 5%. Then we'll do 60 divided by, 15,000 divided by 60. That'll give you your principal payment. And it's about 250. So your monthly payment is going to be approximately $300 a month. Okay. If someone goes to their 401k, pulls it out, puts 15 grand in their checking account, they have to pay themselves back. They have to put it back in that pocket. Okay. So what's really neat is when you're done putting it back, you have it again. It's yours again. And it's bigger because you paid yourself interest. This is a great way to start your investment career, start your real estate banking career, is by banking on yourself. So you're going to take 15 grand out. You're going to put $300 a month back in. Cool. Okay. Now, some people will say, Michael, I don't have 300 a month. And we'll say, don't worry, we'll get there. We're just looking at the roadmap. We're just looking at the situation as it is. Let's be clear. And then for some of you who are new on the line, maybe you haven't seen us do this, but for years, when I would go around the country and speak at Renatus rooms, and there'd be hundreds of people there in each of these rooms, and then I'd ask the ICMs, I'd ask two questions. How many of you did not have the money when you got started? 90% raise their hand. How many of you did not have the money when you got started? Okay, how many of you found the money and were able to buy the Extreme Plus combo? Boom, they all raise their hand. 90%. So when I've seen that thousands and thousands of times throughout a decade, I'm super convinced that it doesn't matter if right now you don't have the money. It's about finding it that makes the difference. So stick with me here. Let's go through this. Number 5 is IRA. Do you have an IRA? If you do, let's say someone's like, yeah, I got 50,000 in an IRA. Awesome. Well, that's a traditional, or is that a Roth? Now, at this point, if you guys have not watched your 401k IRA class, you're probably regretting it. Remember, prioritize your competence, or failure will be your future. Watch your IRA class. So, if they got a traditional that's sitting at a bank, they cannot take a loan the same way as if it was in self-custody. Okay. But there are loans that they can take against it. And what I would do at this point is I would refer them out to directed IRA. Okay, directed IRA is Matt Sorensen's 401k custody or retirement account custody company. They manage billions of dollars. And so if they're wanting to follow all the rules and have their hand held through that process, send them there. They'll arrange their account. It might take 2 weeks, might take 2 months, but then they'll come back to you with their account in such a way that they can access it. And for those 2 weeks to 2 months, it's your job to stay in touch with them. Get them to the next event, take them to lunch, look at a property tour, have them over for dinner, whatever. Stay in touch with people. Okay, number 6 is going to be current credit cards. Current credit cards. And some people get a little, they get a little embarrassed here because they know they bought stuff they shouldn't have bought with their credit cards, and now they're paying for it in a big way. Current credit cards. Usually when I meet people, they have some credit. Every once in a while, I meet people that have 0 credit cards. They never did it. Their great grandma told them never get a credit card, and they've never gotten a credit card. Okay. Until I took the Velocity banking class, I didn't have a credit card either. I had made almost $1 million between real estate and marketing before I got my first credit card. Crazy, huh? Okay, so two scenarios. One is someone's got, well, I have $1,000 on a credit card, and someone's like, well, I got 2,000 on this credit card, 5,000 on this one, 10,000 on this one, I got 8,000 on this one, and I got 5,000 on this one. You say, okay, holy moly, dude, you are $30,000 in credit card debt. And this person's like, I got $1,000 in credit card debt. Great. Now remember, that's the balance. There's also a limit. And then they go, oh, well, I actually have 3 credit cards. And this one has a 5,000 limit. This one has a 10,000 limit. And this one has a 1,000 limit. So now someone that has 16,000 limit and only carries a 1,000 balance is at like a 7% ratio, right? Maybe 6. Someone do the math on that. But now this person, they got 30,000. They're literally maxed 100%. So they're, again, habits. I will see dread on people's face when we get to this part and go, oh, I know I shouldn't have bought the washer and the dryer and the furniture and all those clothes, and now it's all worth 10% of what I paid for it, but now I'm paying 28% interest on top of stuff that's devalued 90%. And I'm like, yeah, that's your old consumer brain. We're trying to install an investor brain. You cannot keep doing stuff like that. Clothing, furniture depreciates 90% when it's used one time. So not a good investment. Unless you're doing short-term rentals, then your furniture is an investment. But other than that, sit on the floor. Okay, so credit cards. So, and then of course, some people will have 0 credit cards altogether. Like this one we just did with Alfredo a couple weeks ago. She had 0 credit, 0 credit cards, but she had credit. She had like a student loan and a car loan or something. And so credit was building for her in a positive way. So what I would do here, if you're working with Mitch's team, follow the credit system for Mitch. If you're working with Richard's team, follow the credit system for Richard, and the one with Eric for Eric. Why? Because the rep who's going to get your customer the credit is going to get a tiny customer or a tiny referral. Right? So the people that work for Mitch to get his customers credit, they work. And we want to get them a commission for the work that they did. Same with Richard, same with Scott and Nancy with Eric. They're all going to get a little cut of getting our customers that credit, but we need them to get that credit so they could buy from us, so they can get investor brain, so they can move forward with their life in a better way. So it's called greasing the wheels. So anyway, my point is, if you don't know who to send your guest to for credit, you need to call your 5-star today and say, by the way, when my customer wants to get credit, new credit cards, who do I send them to? If you don't have that answer today, you need to get that answer today. To whom shall I send my student for credit? If you don't know how to answer that, you are going to lose half of your customers. Because right here, if you knew the answer and you said, don't worry, I got you. I'm going to give you a link and you're going to go fill it out. And in 10 minutes, you'll have an answer. Nice. But there's generally 3, right? Scott's team, Richard's team, Mitch's team. There's a rep that we have for each of those. I know you obviously knew Mayor. have one too, but I think they use Richard's or Mitch's guy. Anyway, my point is, ask your 5-star, to whom shall I send my student for credit? My English teacher would be so proud. Okay. Now I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give an example on 401ks. Examples are great. So I had a guy named Mike. Mike had 60,000 in his 401k when I met him. He was 60. He had been working for decades saving up 60 grand, and he realized not enough, needs to get into real estate, found Renatus and said, hallelujah. He's got 0 in his checking, but 60 in his 401k. So how much is he allowed to borrow? What's the max he could borrow? Max he could borrow is 30,000. Well, the program's only 26,000, right? Okay, so what he did was he took the 26,000, paid for the education, put the other 4,000 in his checking account, and turned it into cash. Now remember the pockets, right? Pants, pockets. So he took 30K out of this, and now he has to pay it back. 30,000 is approximately 600 a month. Approximately 600 a month needs to go back into his own account from himself. Okay. Well, how many months is 4,000 at 600? Approximately, what is that? 7. We'll say 6 to 7 months. He now has 6 months of payments from his 401k back to his 401k, which means for the next 6 months, not a penny on his balance sheet or his income and expense report is going to change. What he makes at his job, what he spends on his life is unaffected by this new $26,000 purchase. Because he put this 4,000 in his checking account and is now paying it back. In 6 months, you remember what we do here. Oh, get out of here. I'm on Do Not Disturb. How did that happen? Sorry about that, guys. So, where did my fancy drawing go? Okay. So for 6 months, he doesn't have to pay anything. His income and expenses are balanced out the same way as if before we met, but he now has access to his education. Now, you guys have seen me make this drawing before many times. But what are we doing here is we got the default life, and we got the design life. In the default life, 1/3 is paying tax, 1/3 is going to banks and interest, and then 1/3 is for life. And we're trying to get people to have a designed life where only 10% goes out to tax, 10% goes out to interest in banks, and 80% is left for life. Now, in order to make this thing happen and to close the gap from one side to the other, you got to do a few things. But most of the stuff to make this transition happen, most of this stuff is in the essentials program, right? It's the tax class, it's the banking class, it's the 401k class, it's the IRA class, it's the credit class. And in there, you're going to learn other things about like insurance that just, takes your money too. all these things that are keeping you in the default life, blah, is costing you so much money, right? This third of your life and this third of your life is where your real problem is. And so if we can help you over the next few months net more money without having to necessarily make more money, but you would have more money, then you would be able to cover after 6 months making that change, right? There's the old you, then the new you on your default versus design life. You will have the $600 a month from tax savings to be able to put back into your pocket, from better banking ideas, from credit restructuring, from changing your the way you pay your insurance and different things like that are going to free up enough money that what was going out of your pocket to these other entities is now going out of your pocket to pay for an asset for you, your education. But let's get clear on something, folks. No matter what, the money is leaving your pocket. It's either going to go to taxes or it's going to go to business startup. It's leaving. I didn't make the rules. I'm just helping you see that in one direction is some slight thievery. They're taking it from you regardless. And in the other one is self-sovereignty and choices and personal responsibility. So either way, it's going out of your pocket. You don't get to keep it. It's going to leave your pocket, but you can direct it. You want to direct it to an asset, or do you want to send it over to the IRS and hope that they do something great with it? So over the next 6 months, or maybe it's, I mean, if they're a good student, they should be rearranging this stuff in 2 months. How bad do they want it? So this is what Mike did. Mike called up his HR at his job and he said, I need a loan for $30,000. And about 5 days later, they mailed him a check for 30 grand. He went to his bank and deposited it. Waited a day for the funds to clear. And then he called me and said, Michael, I have it. I said, great. Now we're going to get a cashier's check and we're going to send it to corporate. And then he did just that. The other 4,000 he set aside for his payments. And here's the thing: at his job, he was making 30,000 a year. Okay, now his kids are adults now, so there's no write-offs there. But he's making 30 grand a year. So he's really only taking home about 20,000 because of the default tax structuring that he's dealing with. But I'm like, dude, you just created a $26,000 tax write-off for yourself. Now, obviously, you don't get to use it the whole year because you're only paying 10 grand in taxes. You can carry some of that forward. But what I'm saying is you can eliminate that $10,000 tax bill that you're already paying by, let's say, half. If you want to be super aggressive and hit every line item to the maximum benefit, you could probably get 80% of it. But let's say we're not doing that. We're going for low-hanging fruit. So we can cut that in half and say 5,000 of the 10,000 per year that you were losing, you're now going to keep. So 5,000 divided by 12 is about 400 a month. Well, your bill for your education was about 600 a month back to yourself. And right now we just figured out that the IRS will give you 400 of it a month back to yourself. And you can just feed back into that pocket and put it all back. But now you're having legitimate tax write-offs and business deductions because you're now launched a business, going back to reimburse yourself for that business cost. And that's all only on someone making 30 grand a year. What if they're making 50 grand a year or 150 grand a year? Then these numbers get Huge. So what I'm trying to tell you, folks, is that even if someone you meet is making $14 an hour, there's still ways for their rearrangement of their finances to pay for their program. Cool? Cool. Okay, so next week. So we ended at 6. Next week, we're going to go to 7 through 12. And we'll make this a 2-part series. We're talking about finding the money. Okay, so to recap, we're going to get them to think about their future. Why are we going to go do all this work? What are we after? Then 1 and 2, tell us about habits. And then, then we're going to get into the resources. And then I'll show you what we would do if it was just zeros all the way down. Someone just says zeros all the way down. Okay. But most people have something. So my point is, oh, and then we talk about when you sit down with them over a Zoom, it's one thing. My preference is you go and meet them to create that trust. But if it's got to be through Zoom, then that works too. But sit next to them if you're going to go to a cafe or something and get out a sheet of paper. I would usually just bring blank printer paper and a blue marker and a blue pen so I can write big and say, this is you, this is what you're going to do. And then they can take it home with them and show their wife or put it on their fridge and say, this is the plan. It might take 2 to 4 weeks to execute the plan. So you got to make sure that all the distractions between now and those 2 to 4 weeks, right? The news is trying to get them to do something. Facebook's trying to get them to do something. MSNBC and late night shows are trying to get them to do something. They're all fighting for your customers' attention. So you have to be what's called top of mind awareness, TOMA, top of mind awareness. And the one of the big things that's really going to help is getting clear on why we're doing what they're doing. This isn't instant gratification. This is long-term lifestyle satisfaction. So it's going to be worth it. Turn the TV off, turn the negative news off, curate your feeds on whatever else you're getting, right? If you see something negative on your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed, hit, I don't want to see stuff like this, and clean it up. Don't just scroll past it. Hit no. Don't send me crap like this. And, what goes in, what comes out is a manifestation of that. So if it's garbage in, garbage out, that's your fault. Clean it up. All right. So there's my rant for the day. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Remember, it's okay to ask them where they're at, and it's okay to share stories about what others have done, but it's not okay to tell them what to do. You can say, many students have gone to Mountain America Credit Union and gotten a HELOC on their house. But it's not okay to say, go to Mountain America and get a HELOC on your house. You just share what others have done and let them make the decision. Cool? Cool, cool, cool. All right, folks. Got to run. Thanks for being here. Thanks for playing. We'll keep building on this. It just keeps getting better. So go follow up with your guest from last month. It works. I promise you this system and this conversation will work if you work it. And then tomorrow, we got Mr. Bill Predabon for Takeoff Tuesday. So stay focused and keep bringing your questions, your good energy. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great day. Bye for now.